What is up, New York Giants fans? Thank you for tuning into another episode of Tommy's Takes. I'm your host, Tommy G. You could have been anywhere in the world, but you're here with me on a very special Victory Sunday. The New York Football Giants are 5-1. Another come from behind, exhilarating victory versus the Baltimore Ravens. This game had a little bit of everything and how exciting it was. I mean, if you're a Giants fan, you can't be more happy right now. You come into this season, you're at stage 0, stage 1 of this rebuild. You know, people thinking about the draft after a week or two into the season, especially after the Dallas game, just being conditioned to think like that after, 6 years basically of playoff-less football. And here you go. This New York Giants team is tough, gritty, plays well from behind, doesn't beat themselves, doesn't make mistakes. This was an amazing game across the board. It was a tale of two halves. Seems like it's been like that all season for the Giants. But here we go. Let's get right into it. First half, very interesting. Giants come out, and it looked like they wanted to attack Baltimore's weaknesses rather than play to their own strengths. So they come out, first drive, pass. Didn't look good. The Giants are not a great passing team this season. They've showed that when they need to pass, they can make it happen. But as far as going after teams and utilizing the pass as the main form of attack, just hasn't worked well for the Giants. So that's how the game started out. They did have Wan'Dale Robinson active, and he had an impact in this game straight up. So first couple of drives didn't work. But Giants went back to what has brought them here with Saquon Barkley. And, before we get to that, talking about how the Giants attacked the Ravens today was very, very interesting because the Ravens did an excellent job against the run, save for the fourth quarter. The fourth quarter felt like a completely different game when you look at this game in a shell. First 3 quarters were slanted towards Baltimore. They did a really good job against the run. They did a good job running the ball themselves. But when it came to the fourth quarter, things changed. But first half was Ravens dominated, I would say, even though the score didn't show it. They dominated the line of scrimmage, ton of rushing yards. Lamar looked comfortable back there when it came time to throw. It came time to run it, but let's be honest, when it was time for him to throw the ball to wide receivers, he did not play well, and he did not throw the ball with accuracy. He was 17 of 32, 210 yards. He had a touchdown and the back-breaking interception. But the first half, he played really well, and he played within the system. It was shocking to see the Giants could not stop Mark Andrews, even though he's a phenomenal tight end. They just couldn't hold him in that first half, and he tortured them. Him, along with Kenyon Drake, really, really put a dent in his Giants team. Missed field goal was big in that first half. Justin Tucker misses a 56-yard field goal, as you could see by the final score. That could have changed the way that the Ravens planned things out those last couple of drives. That was a big part in the first half. And the Giants offense just looked out of sync for the most part. When you kind of look at the numbers in that first half, not a lot for Barkley. Jones didn't do a lot. He still looks a little bit hobbled by that ankle. I don't know if it's just me making that assessment, but he still looks a little hobbled. He's not running like he's been running. Even the couple plays that he did run, didn't look like himself. So you basically got Baltimore up 10-7 at halftime, which honestly, the way the game felt, it really felt like this should have been a 20-7 Baltimore lead. But give this Giants defense credit. Give Wink Martindale credit. I'm sure he's super pumped beating his former team in the Wink Bowl. But give this defense credit. It's 10-7 at halftime. They've pretty much been dominated. The Ravens have done what they wanted, moving the ball up and down the field, but missed the field goal, got stopped inside the red zone, and they only had 10 points to show. And for anybody that's been a fan of football for a long time or even a short time, whatever, when you're playing well and you're dominating the other team, but you're not coming up with points, that's tough. That takes a mental toll on you. And I think that's kind of what happened this game. Really, it's been the story of Baltimore's season. They've outplayed almost every team on their docket, but now they're 3-3. So that's tough for Baltimore, and it reared its ugly head again in this game. If you really want to look at what the Giants didn't do well in the first half, I think they got away from who they were, especially on that first drive where it's just pass. I know the Ravens came in last in pass defense, but they were number 1 in the NFL, tied for interceptions. And I know Kafka wanted to attack that, But I think that hurt the team because the offensive line did not play well in that first half. Especially Feliciano didn't look good. Neal had a couple of tough plays. And the problem is when you play to the other team's weakness, that's not most of the time your strength. And that was the case in this game. And when you play away from your strengths as a coach, as a player, whatever it is, that's a lofty challenge. And I think that's what hurt this Giants team in the first half. And I think that's why it was 10-7. I think that's why they struggled, the Giants. Again, no turnovers for the Giants. Daniel Jones did have a fumble on the Hail Mary attempt at the end of the half. If you would like to count that, it does count in the stat book. But that was the only turnover this Giants team had. So the first half was essentially Giants trying to do what they don't usually do. Baltimore having their way with the rushing attack. If you look at some of these numbers for Baltimore, it was ridiculous. Lamar Jackson finished with 11 yards per carry per rush. Drake finished 11.9. And, with all the excitement, all the fun, all the energy for this Giants team, they need to fix that run defense because right now they're getting run on and in the NFL, if you allow a team to run on you, not only is it physically defeating, it's mentally defeating. It speeds up the game when you're down. You don't want that. So the first half had a lot of that. Fortunately for the Giants, NFL games are two halves. And what you've seen from this Giants team so far this season is they are a completely different team in the second half. When they go into that locker room and they make adjustments, they come out a different team. And that happened again because they ended up outscoring Baltimore 17-10, and that's how they won the game. They made their adjustments. Didn't really make great adjustments against the run, unfortunately. The run seemed to still eat them up, but offensively is where you've seen some of the key adjustments. All of a sudden, Barkley started to run downhill. Jones started to hit a little bit of a stride. He had the rough series in the goal line where maybe he could have dumped it off, maybe he couldn't have. That resulted in a field goal rather than a touchdown. But this team, week in and week out, when this game is on the line and the going gets rough, and even after the Giants scored that touchdown to cut it to a 3-point game and the Ravens get the ball back, you're kind of like, all right, there's 6 minutes left. They've been running the ball down our throat. But that last drive, so let's break it down. Let's slow it down for a minute before we even get to that. Super pumped, super excited to go through this with you guys because this was really a remarkable win for this Giants team. Make no ifs, ands, or buts about that. Baltimore is a perennial playoff team. They have a Pro Bowl, all-pro quarterback in Lamar Jackson, very well coached. Regardless of where this game was played, it was in MetLife. This was going to be a hard game no matter what for the New York Giants. But the second half, got to give them credit, on offense. Brightwell has the big return. Gary Brightwell with a 50-yard kick return. And when have the Giants last seen positive contributions from special teams? When? So that 50-yard return by Brightwell was a big one. And the Giants scored on that drive. Fortunately, they had another drive that started at midfield in the first half off the missed field goal by Tucker. Got no points off of that. So that was a big, big moment in the game. Brightwell gets the kick return. Jones leads him down there for the touchdown, which was huge. Jones finished the day 19 of 27, 173 yards, 2 passing touchdowns, no intercepts. He did have the one fumble on the Hail Mary attempt. Didn't really have much of an impact on the game at all. He had Barkley finish with 22 carries, 83 yards, just shy of 4.0 yards per carry. He did have one touchdown, could have had another, but he decided to slide, which was a very smart football play. Saquon Barkley showing week in and week out. This is not the Saquon of the last couple years where if he's not playing well in the first half, that's going to continue. He's not, if he's getting a couple of negative plays, they're going to be more negative plays. Hasn't had a lot of negative plays, but this was a tough game. And you've seen Barkley pushing through. He had more pain in his shoulder, got slammed down again, came right back into the game, ends up almost scoring that touchdown, basically putting the game away. He was awesome. Daniel Bellinger, 5 catches, 38 yards, a touchdown. He had the big touchdown to get the Giants within 3 points. And what more could you say about this team, honestly? You get, you come into the season, new head coach, new general manager, obviously new coaching staff, rebuilt offensive line. You have several players that are on these prove it deals or prove it opportunities with Jones and Barkley, and even someone like Darius Slayton, who was out there. and you come out and you win 5 of the first 6 games. And honestly, and I said this before on the show many times, a couple plays in that Dallas loss where this team could be undefeated. Really the most remarkable story of this NFL season so far. And as Giants fans, you get to enjoy that, and you deserve that, because this team has been through hell and back for the last decade, save one playoff appearance. So that's where the Giants are at. They win 24-20. Lamar, frustrating because Lamar played a great game. On the drive, he needs to run the clock out. Baltimore's up by 3. He gets a low snap, saves the low snap, but unfortunately throws a terrible pass, gets intercepted by Julian Love, who did an awesome job today attempting to cover Andrews. Giants couldn't cover Andrews all day, but he is an all-world tight end. There's really no teams that can cover him efficiently. But Lamar throws the interception. Love returns it to basically into the red zone. And the game is essentially over pretty much because, the Giants just scored a touchdown. You get the ball back with 6 minutes left. You already get a couple first downs. There's about 4 minutes and change left. And you give the Giants the ball inside the red zone. And the Giants punched it in. And you got to give Daniel Jones credit. The first half didn't look great. Didn't look as sharp as he's been. I think he's still hobbled a little by the ankle. But in that second half, when he goes on that touchdown drive, he's 5 of 5. He's money. And this is another fourth quarter comeback win for Daniel Jones. Count it. That's 4 fourth quarter comeback wins for Daniel Jones and his Giants team. So when people talk about Jones and who are we going to draft, and we're going to look at Anthony Richardson and we're going to look at Bryce Young, slow down, because this quarterback is playing winning football for the New York Giants. He's tough. He's smart. He's been dependable this season. When he was hurt, he came and played in versus Green Bay in London. And again today, he just does enough to will this team to victory. He had the 2 touchdowns, only had 6 carries for 6 yards. So if you're wondering about his ankle, I mean, if you watch the game, you could see he's not himself running the ball, but 6 carries for 6 yards for Jones. That's not like him, but did it with his arm when it mattered, when the Giants needed it. In the fourth quarter when they were down, and really remarkable watching him out there. And for Giants fans, a lot of times when the game was on the line, Jones' first 3 years, when he has the ball in the fourth quarter, the last 2 minutes, you're thinking, oh boy, here we go. We're going to force the throw. It's going to be a strip fumble. It's going to be a strip sack, what might have you, but not anymore. Not anymore with Daniel Jones. He's shown that he could tough it out, down by 10 points midway through the fourth quarter. And this team just refuses to lose. It's remarkable. And, you see teams sometimes and you look at them and you say, I can't believe this team is 5-1. Or sometimes you say vice versa. I can't believe this team's 1-5 with all this talent. That's because there's the X factor. To me, the X factor is coaching, fight, toughness, and intelligence. And those 4 things personify this New York Giants football team. And you can't give enough credit to Brian Daboll, Mike Kafka, Wink Martindale, and the rest of the coaching staff. Unbelievable job they have done with this team preparation-wise. They always come to play. They may not be the best first half team, but they don't give it away in the first half to where it's insurmountable for them to come back in the second half. They come to play, and then when they get to settle in and make their adjustments in the second half, this is a very difficult football team to beat. And, you look at the schedule coming up for the Giants, and they got some favorable games. I'm not going to lie. They got some favorable games. And you kind of wonder what's going to happen, right? What's going to be down the line? Where is this team going? Well, first, let's stop for a second and look at some of the contributions from the young players today. I want to get first into Kayvon Thibodeau. Last week versus Green Bay, Rodgers was having his way with us in the first half, with the Giants in the first half, doing what he needed to do. I wanted Kayvon to get home. I wanted Kayvon to show a little bit more there. He did in the second half, super active. Coming into this game, same thing versus Lamar. Kayvon's close. He's getting to Lamar. Just missed him. Just missed his here. And then what happens, right? Minute 30 remaining in the game, and then Kayvon Thibodeau picks the opportune time to make his statement play so far of his young NFL career. Reaches out, strips the ball away from Jackson, and that is it. The Giants ran it out from there, giving, Wink Martindale an emotional victory over his former team. For those that don't know, Wink Martindale coached the Ravens for 10 years, and this is his first year not on the Ravens. with the Giants. Giants are super lucky to have him. And just like that, Giants 5-1, a 3-game winning streak. Ravens fall to 3-3. You know, the young players have willed this team. You have Kayvon Thibodeau. You have Evan Neal, who's been, whether he's up or he's down or he's not where he wants to be yet, he's out there every snap. He's starting since day one. He's contributing. You have Joshua Zudu came in today in a pinch when Feliciano went down. Feliciano did come right back on the next drive. You have Jones, Barkley, but Jones is in his 4th year, Barkley in his fifth year. So really bright future, I think, for this Giants football team. And I'm going to tell you why. Giants had no cap space coming into this season. They had essentially negative cap space when you look at the broad picture. Really wasn't much Joe Schoen could do. But what he showed you, Joe Schoen, is that with the little he did have, he's able to make an impact. Brings Jalen Smith in, off the street, starting for the New York Giants a couple days later, making plays, running downhill. You have Marcus Williams today, wide receiver, picked up off the street a couple weeks ago, making plays, getting open. He just signed Landon Collins, who I have no doubt will make some type of impact on his team down the line. So imagine giving Joe Schoen $70 million and saying, here, fix the holes on his Giants team. I think the rest of the NFC East should be worried. Maybe not this year. You never know how seasons go, especially with the way Giants have had bad luck with injuries. That is one player I did leave out. A young player, Wan'Dale Robinson, first game back, played a little bit in the season opener versus Tennessee, got hurt with the knee. He starts contributing right away, scores on a touchdown, had another nice catch over the middle, and it's just guys contributing. Doesn't matter who's in there. Marcus Williams, Wan'Dale Robinson, Darius Slayton had a couple good plays today. This team just gets it. This team has a common goal, common vision, and when they go out there, they're on the same page. And nice to see, like I said, special teams getting involved today. That was awesome. You want to shore up again. The rush defense is not good for this Giants team. And that's going to be something that they're going to have to think about. And they're going to have to really, really figure out a plan on how to fix this run D, because the run D almost cost them this game today easily. Lamar and Drake really just did what they wanted to do. Anytime they needed a first down rushing, they got it. Like I said, Lamar was it's really incredible looking at. Drake had 10 carries, 119 yards, almost 12 yards per carry. Lamar, 7 rushes, 77 yards, 11 yards per carry. That's losing football. But when you have an opportunistic team, and when you have a team that doesn't quit, doesn't stop fighting, Thibodeau with the strip sack fumble, Julian Love with the interception in the Giants needed that ball. The Ravens were this close to running that game out. They had just got 2 first downs running the ball. Lamar's breaking contain. They were this close, the Ravens, to ending that football game. But this Giants team never gives up. And 5-1 is a remarkable mark for them. Eagles, Cowboys are going to be a good game coming up. That's going to be a real interesting one in terms of record-wise in the NFC East. So that's where the Giants are at. Big, big win today. MetLife Stadium rocking. Ravens had a bunch of false start penalties. Shout out to the MetLife crowd. You guys did a great job. Great job. You love to see that. Let's go through some stats. Let's go through some statistics to see where we're at. Daniel Bellinger, this kid is something else. So, Giants draft him, mid-round pick. Not a lot of fanfare around him. Giants desperately needed a tight end. A lot of people saying he might not start. Seals Jones might start. Seals Jones got hurt. He's out for the season. Seals Jones will probably start. Bellinger's probably not going to contribute right away. And all this kid has done is contribute. 5 catches today, 38 yards, nice touchdown catch down there on the goal line. Unbelievable job. Young player. Next up, Wan'Dale Robinson, 3 catches, 37 yards, touchdown. Young player. Marcus Johnson, 2 catches, 25 yards, young player. And then you have Richie James. Slayton had an 18-yard catch. Breida had a couple catches. Sills only had 1 catch. And even more remarkable when you look at this Giants team is that they're missing, if you would have looked at this coming into the season or even a couple weeks before the season, they're missing Kenny Golladay. They're missing Kadarius Toney. They were missing Azeez Ojulari today. They were missing Cordell Flott today. They were missing Aaron Robinson today. And you can go on and on. But when you have a team that's well coached, you have a team that's smart, you have a team that plays with toughness, grit, and determination, doesn't matter who's injured, doesn't matter who's out, because they have a common focus and a common goal. Does it catch up to the Giants eventually? Who knows? Who cares? This team is 5-1. Nobody would have thought they would be where they're at right now. They believed in themselves. The coaching staff believed in them. And they go out every week. They get it done. They beat Tennessee on the road. Tennessee was a playoff team last year. They beat Carolina. They beat the Bears. They went into London injured, quarterback hobbled, beat another perennial playoff team in Green Bay. They come home, beat another perennial playoff team. That's 3 perennial playoffs team this Giants team has defeated so far to go 5-1. So really got to give so much credit to this Giants coaching staff, the front office for finding these players basically off the street during the season. And this was the problem with previous leadership with this Giants team, because listen, you're going to have injuries. There's no way around that. Every team deals with injuries. Every team has players go down. The best teams have depth, right? Well, this Giants team doesn't have a lot of depth. When you don't have a salary cap, it's hard to have a lot of depth. You're basically using cheap chess pieces out there, right? Whatever, doesn't matter. But the players that got picked up on the cheap are producing. Why? Because they're the right players for the system. The GM and the head coach are in unison. They have the same vision. They inflect that vision on this team. And that's why they're at where they're at right now. That's why they're 5-1, because they're all on the same page. This Giants team previously has been on separate pages. The GM fired, head coach hired, vice versa, all on different pages. Mara intervening when he doesn't need to, different pages. So you have a GM, head coach on the same page. They inflect that message to the team. The team is on the same page. Doesn't matter if it's an all-pro starting next to you or if it's a guy that was on the street a couple days ago. We have to play tough, strong, smart, and hard. And that's what they do. And Giants fans should be proud. Fans in New York City should be proud of this team. It's been a long decade, only one playoff appearance, and here they are, 5-1. The probability of teams that are 5-1 making the playoffs is over 86%. Keep that in mind. Not in the bag yet, but keep that in mind. And let's, take a little bit of a look ahead to the Giants. So you have the Jaguars coming up next week. The Jaguars, they've been up and down. They have a young quarterback, obviously. They're 2-4 now, Jacksonville. They're struggling a little bit now. They started the season playing solid, but they have a young quarterback. They lost to the Colts. They've lost to the Texans and Eagles. So they're on a 3-game losing streak. So, you're going to play Jacksonville, in Jacksonville, which on the road in the NFL is never easy, but this is a team on a 3-game slide. This is a team with a young struggling quarterback in Trevor Lawrence. I think this could be easily a winnable game for the Giants. And, let's keep going down the list here for the Giants, right? After the Jaguars, they're going to play Seattle. So again, this one's also going to be on the road. So a couple tough road games. Seattle hasn't played well this year, and for the most part, they're 2-3 playing the Cardinals. Geno Smith has done a good job filling in. But again, I think this is another game where, and I was thinking about this today, so many games during this last decade for the Giants, when you go into the game, you never really felt like the Giants had a coaching advantage. You never felt like they had a leadership advantage in these games. Just thinking about the Ravens game this morning, I was doing a little bit of prep work for it. And I said to myself, the Ravens are very well coached, but the Giants are right there. The Giants do not make a lot of mistakes to kill themselves. And that happened today. The Giants did not make a lot of mistakes. There were a couple penalties, a couple of cleanup things on the Drake touchdown that he had, the red zone touchdown run Drake had. Only 10 men on the field. Don't want to see that. That was obviously a substitution issue there. But for the most part, no turnovers outside of the Jones fumble on the Hail Mary. This team protects the ball. A couple drops here and there, which were a little concerning. You had 2 drops back-to-back on that drive right before the fourth quarter by Wandale, and I believe it was Slayton, which was tough. But overall, they don't beat themselves. They play clean. They play within themselves. They play disciplined. They play smart. And you have to become a team that's hard to beat. and it seems like really like common sense and generic talk, but it's true. You need to become a team that's tough to beat. And when you become that team, you have the advantage in coaching, you have the advantage in discipline, and this team does. So Jaguars, Seahawks coming up. After that, you got Texans and Lions. Again, Texans and Lions have not played great either. And then it gets difficult. You got the Cowboys, Commanders, Eagles, Commanders. You got 4 straight division games. But who cares? In my opinion, this is house money. And it's New York, so it's always going to be scrutinized. So if they did start to slip up here, there would be a lot of talk about it. But this is house money. This was a rebuild year. This was a year to evaluate talent, to evaluate Daniel Jones, who's playing for a contract, to evaluate a Saquon Barkley, who's playing for a contract. This was that. And all of a sudden, it's really morphed into something completely different. It's morphed into, hey, maybe we keep Saquon Barkley. Maybe we bring Daniel Jones back. Maybe this thing can work if we get some receivers, if we get some linebackers, some secondary help. This Giants team is not far away from where they need to be. Like I said, they need to fix the run defense. Not good. Pass defense was very good today. Ravens struggle passing the ball outside of the hashes and struggle passing to anybody outside of the tight end. Really remarkable when watching Lamar. When he's throwing to tight ends, he's accurate. He's a great runner of the football. Anytime he's not throwing to tight ends, and this a big part is because they don't have any good receivers. Whenever he's not throwing to tight ends, it seems inaccurate. And when the Giants got up and the onus was on Baltimore to throw the ball, you seen what happened. They collapsed. The Kayvon ended that. So Baltimore is a team that is not used to playing from behind. Despite them having 3 losses, they've been ahead in most of those games until the very end. And you either win those in the fourth quarter or you lose them. And that's the good part about this Giants team. They showed you in the fourth quarter when it's time to come back and the chips are down, they're going to do it. And they put the hammer down with a minute left with Kayvon's sack. Really can't say enough good things about this team. There was a big penalty on Marcus Peters on Darius Slayton in the end zone. So even though Slayton only had 1 catch, he did force that huge penalty. Peters actually intercepted it mostly because he interfered with it. And that was it. The Giants just, really putting their stamp on this game, putting their stamp on being the Cinderella story of this young NFL season. We talked about the schedule, some favorable matchups coming up, and you just ride the wave right now. If you're a Giants fan, if you're a Giants supporter, you really just ride this wave of enjoyment. And, got to feel happy for Giants fans. I never like to say fans deserve this, fans don't deserve it. I think every single fan of a team deserves to enjoy some winning, enjoys to see some championships. And Giants fans, for the most part, have enjoyed that. Giants have 4 championships, been to 5 Super Bowls, won 4. So, you got to feel great for them. And big win. Very interesting stat. The Giants have been trailing heading into the fourth quarter in 5 of their 6 games this season. And they are 5-1. So call them the cardiac kids, the comeback kids, whatever you want to call them. Really remarkable. And they did it today when they didn't do a lot in the first half. Just look at Saquon Barkley. First half, he had 6 carries for 14 yards. Second half, he had 16 carries for 69 yards. So this is a second half team. And if you had to choose what you wanted your team to be, you want them to be a second half team. And that's what they are. And they're a scary team to play. The rookies are contributing. You have Evan Neal, Kayvon Thibodeau, Wan'Dale Robinson, Daniel Bellinger, all had an impact today on that victory. And salute to the New York Giants, because not easy to win football games in the NFL, especially when you're cap strapped, especially when you're full of injuries at tons of important positions. But today they showed you, again, doesn't really matter. Wink Martindale gets the revenge at the end of the game. When the Giants need 2 stops, they get 2 stops. They get the interception on Lamar. They get the forced fumble on the strip sack by Thibodeau. 4 fourth quarter wins. Daniel Jones. I mean, who would have thought that coming into the season, that 6 weeks in, you'd say, hey, Daniel Jones has 4 fourth quarter comebacks. You'd be like, what? So shout out to the quarterback of the New York Giants. Didn't look great in the first half. I think he's, like I said earlier, he's still hobbled with the ankle. But when the chips were down and the team needed him to come back, really remarkable performance by him. So a couple other house cleaning things. Giants put up 17 points on offense in the second half. Nice to see that. The offense looked out of sync in the first half, to say the least. Still a lot of stuff to clean up. I think the two biggest areas to clean up for this football team is the passing offense. I think the passing offense just never really in sync. I think that has to do with the receivers always being hurt, not being out there, or being rusty when they come back in. The NFL is a game of inches, a game of timing. So if you're off just a little bit in your timing, you're going to have issues with it. And the second thing is the rushing defense, the running defense, because this team just got pounded today. And it's unusual because typically in the NFL, when you give up, what they gave up today, and I believe it was over 200 yards rushing and 11 yards per carry, you're going to get beat, and you're going to get beat soundly. So they showed that they're tough regardless, no matter what happens, but those two areas of the game they have to clean up. But for now, Giants fans, your team is 5-1, 4 fourth quarter comebacks. Nobody thought you would do it. This was a rebuild year. Let's see what we could get for this player at the trade deadline. Let's try to trade this guy. Let's start doing our mock drafts week 2 and week 3. Let's post screenshots of Daniel Jones missing a receiver or missing a running back out of the backfield. No more. The focus has shifted for this football team. They're 5-1. They have a favorable 4-game stretch coming up. They have a quarterback that's tough as nails, especially in the second half. They have a running back that's a man on a mission, who is one of the best players in the NFL in Saquon Barkley. They have an opportunistic defense, a smart offense. They don't make a lot of mistakes. They don't kill themselves. They're disciplined. They're driven. This New York Giants team, if you were to take a bunch of ingredients for a great team, a team that fights and a team that doesn't give up, you would take the ingredients from this football team: heart, determination, focus, swagger. I mean, these young kids, I've mentioned it already several times, these young kids are balling out. And you don't see that often in the NFL. A lot of times you see struggles. You see it taking time for them to start doing it. And they have the coaching staff. They have the GM that's going to make it happen for them. So if you're a Giants fan, you celebrate this victory. You got Jacksonville coming up next week, but 5-1. The New York Football Giants are 5-1. Doesn't even seem real sometimes when you say it, but it just goes to show you anything could happen in this league. Parity is a big thing in the NFL. And if you can go on a run and you could play well in the fourth quarter, you could wear your opponent out in the fourth quarter, you're going to come away with some victories. So that's where we're at. Again, just in closing, Giants beat the Ravens today 24-20. They were down 20-13 at the half. It wasn't a great game, at the half. So, but they did everything they could. They did everything in the second half right. Really remarkable to see how they played in the second half. When you look at injuries wise, this team hopefully will only get healthier. You did see Andrew Thomas limping around out there and struggling a little bit to get up. You did see Saquon re-injure the shoulder. He came right back. Giants were down 10-7 at the half. Excuse me. You did see Barkley get the shoulder injury. He came right back. Thomas came back. So nothing but positives after this game, in my opinion. There's stuff to work on. There's stuff to fix. There's stuff to clean up and get together. But you take the win. You limit Lamar Jackson. He didn't go nuts. Only threw for 200 yards. And you come away with a home victory. And the Giants have struggled at home as well. So huge victory. And probably get a rest day, Monday. Get back at it. Get ready to go to Jacksonville. You got a couple games on the road. You have Jacksonville and then Seattle back-to-back on the road, which, road games are tests for young teams. And this will be another test. But opening day, they went into Tennessee and, beat the Titans up. So that's it for today. Thank you, everybody, for joining. Fresh off the victory, I wanted to get right on and share everything with you guys. I'll be back this week with another show very soon. Please check me out on Twitter, TommyG105. Check out Giants Country. We'll be dropping a ton of content this week celebrating that 5-1 record. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, please do. Means a lot when you subscribe. Lets me know that we're heading in the right direction, and you know, I'll be here to put content out for you guys. So once again, Giants are 5-1, headed in the right direction. The arrow's pointing up. Thanks for tuning in. Peace.